Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. So if you guys are interested in very specific steps for this video, I'll have them all set up on a timeline right here. But right now, let's talk about what we're going to be doing today. So for quite a while, I've always made photo cards from like a manufacturer. So I would send off my designs, they would go through all the process of making it, then ship them out, and I would receive them in like a few weeks. And I've made quite a few photo cards in that kind of method, even more right here. I have my Plave ones. I also have a bunch of 17 ones right here as well. I have a bunch of other photo cards, but these ones are my current samples that I have with me right now. But I thought it'd be fun to take you guys along with me as I kind of experiment a little bit with making some photo cards at home, because I think in a previous video where I made like little fake polaroids that I wanted to do for Haikyuu characters, which I haven't done yet, I still have like this really thick kind of photo paper, and I watched a video. I'll make sure to link it down in the description if you're interested, and I saw that the weight of their paper was actually very similar to mine, so I decided that I would give a go at making some photo cards at home. So just a little sneak peek, this is kind of what they look like. I did try using a bit of different laminates. You can kind of see. The ones that I usually get from Moo are with the matte look, just because I do like a non-reflective surface for something like so visual, but because I only have glossy photo paper and I have like glossy laminates, that is kind of what I went for. So if you're interested on how I made a bunch of these Plave photo cards, feel free to watch the rest of the video or hop around in our timeline if you have very specific questions or interested in specific parts of the process then. But I think this is kind of like a fun way if you want to make photo cards at home that are more specific and individual kind of cards rather than having ones that are in a whole batch. I'll take you guys along with me to show you guys how I ended up making these Plave and MMMM cards. Yeah, so let's go ahead and start off with setting up our file and working on the designs for our photo cards. So we are going to be starting off in Clip Studio Paint, as that's what I wanted to draw all these photo cards in. So to kind of like start with the drawing, this is kind of like one of my old versions and it has like all the formatting already done. So I went ahead and took the same template that I was kind of like basing the cards off of, which is the Moo business card artwork guidelines template. So at the very top, like near the pink area, it does have what the dimensions are, including the bleed. So whenever I make these kind of like photo cards, I do try my best to consider the bleed alongside into the design and the formatting. So let's go ahead and start off by making a new canvas with the correct dimensions. Now mine aren't going to match exactly to the template. I do like to work a little bit larger, so I basically just doubled the dimensions so that we can size up everything, and then when we are ready to do the printing or submitting our files, they will be like sized down, because it's easier to usually size down larger images to smaller ones rather than blowing up smaller ones into larger kind of drawings, because if you go from like small to large, then everything will get blurry. But most likely if you go the other way, you're just going to lose a little bit of detail here and there if you ended up doing too much when you drew it a little bit larger. So for the entire drawing process for all 5 of the members, I believe I only had kind of footage from the first 3 that I did, which happens to be Yejun, Noah, and Bambi. So my initial sketch that I did for Yejun, I ended up just scrapping entirely because I decided to go with a different theme. So initially you would have saw that I was starting off kind of with like heart poses with the little MMMM dolls, and I did not like the format. Instead, I decided to put them on the shoulders of the members and just have the members kind of like gesturing to the characters so that they're kind of like displayed, or like they're, hey, look at them because they're cute. So to kind of keep everything consistent and not have too many repetitive like heart poses, I thought this was going to be like a better way to do it. And then once we have our sketch finished, as you can see, like when I'm doing the sketching portion, I do try my best to keep the template the one that I got from the Moo website, and it has like the bleeds, the trim, and the safe area, just to make sure that when I'm sketching out any of the characters or the members today, I want to make sure that nothing important will be cut off. I'm not too particular about like small things being cut off like near the trim or like the bleed area, just because some things, like let's say a whole hand might be cut off, then that might be an issue. But if like a few strands of hair get cut off, I don't really mind. But it's good to take in consideration your bleed, especially if your manufacturer requires you to have it. Otherwise, your image might be cropped in too much and you might lose important details. So make sure to draw your image with the bleed in mind and know where your safe areas are so that none of your important details accidentally get left out. So in terms of the style that I went with, I do not really enjoy doing line art, or kind of like that method of doing like line art and then filling in with flats and then rendering each part separately. So eventually, after when I figured out how I wanted to approach the drawings, I kind of did a lot of experimenting, mostly on Yejun's piece. I ended up just doing like generic coloring for the most part, and then I will merge my line art, I guess, in the very end to kind of allow myself to be able to render and paint on top like I usually do. So I'll make sure to leave all the brushes that I end up using in Clip Studio Paint. I did end up downloading the Jing Sketches brush pack for, I believe it's for Photoshop, but you can import those into Clip Studio Paint because they accept the same file format, I believe, for the brushes. So I was able to use somewhat similar brushes to when I work in Procreate, which is great. For like little embellishments for the photo card, I went with like a little bit of a sparkle design and a little bit of a doodling kind of aesthetic afterwards. So just, it kind of gives a little bit of consistency among all the cards, and I think it looks kind of cute. And then for coloring and stuff, I tried to make sure that each of their kind of like accent colors represented the colors that kind of, I don't know, that they're kind of associated with. But then after that, I did have a little bit of footage of Noah and Bambi, so I don't think there's anything really to talk about for the illustration portion of the card, as long as you know where your bleed is, the safe area, and the trim. You should be good to go. I did make sure that if I end up putting text or like little embellishments or like doodles and stuff, that they don't get kind of like awkwardly cut off, because I do place them kind of after the fact. Usually when I'm doing like the sketching portion, I do keep the borders in mind, but then sometimes I do get a little bit carried away later on in the drawing. Okay, so now with all of the cards done, I did not really have any footage of Hamin or Eunho, so I went ahead and started to work on the back portion, which is going to be our backing, or like I guess like the flip side of our card. So in this case, I ended up trying different designs. I sketched out this kind of design that I kind of liked the format of, went ahead, used the Milli pen to kind of make a cleaner version of the little font that I ended up making, along with the sparkles and the layout. I stuck with the grid patterning all the way through so that we have a consistent look. I just didn't want things to look too overwhelming for the back side, and I want it to kind of like still match a little bit with the front side in terms of the aesthetic. But I think that's it in terms of actually doing the designing portion of the cards. After that, we'll go into the template portion. Okay, so now that we are done kind of with our card designs, also, by the way, if I sound a little bit strange, I am holding my mic attached to one of my little camera arms. Let's quickly go through. So I have Yejun done, we have Noah, Bambi, Eunho, and Hamin. Then I showed you guys the backing portion of our photo cards. So the next step I have to do is actually make the template. Now, there are templates on, I think if you just search up like photo card templates, you can find a bunch. I'm gonna make my own, so I'm gonna try my best to set up the template. If kind of like works out to my favor, I will make sure to include all the clips and stuff into today's video, and I'll try my best to explain how exactly I'm going to make the template so that our front and back side of our template kind of like 100% like matches up. Otherwise, we're gonna have some stuff very off-centered, but we'll see how it kind of works out in the end. So let's go ahead and make the template first, and then we'll get on to printing, cutting, and like the final steps. Oh boy. Okay, I'm not too sure how well I'm going to be able to explain this thoroughly. But basically, make a canvas with the same size as your paper dimensions that you're going to be printing your cards on. So in my case, I'm using an 8.5 by 11. I'm also going to be transferring over the little Moo template, and I can see that this is not the correct size. The correct size is the one that's listed in the bleed area. So mine is about double, so I went ahead and took our 2.32 and made basically a template of that, resize our Moo template to the same size as our canvas so that we have the accurate size. You can definitely resize this without having to do the same method that I'm doing. But this is just kind of how my brain works in terms of trying to get things to be the right size or even. After that, I made a little bit of a mock-up to see how many cards I can fit comfortably vertically. So I can fit 9 cards on an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper. So I went ahead and decided that I will do 8.5 divided by 3, and we get 2.83. Then I got 11 divided by 3, which is 3.66. So this is kind of like an approximation, but it's gonna give us the dimensions of our, I guess, to evenly split our paper into 9 rectangles, if that makes sense. So I made a kind of like a canvas with those dimensions, put down a black kind of like rectangle to fill up the entire space. I duplicated my template, and then I'm going to go into the transform tool, go scale and rotate, keep aspect ratio, and hit canvas for the adjust position. Now while holding Alt, I'm going to resize our template a little bit because for it to really center everything, it kind of makes I think the longest side, because it's keeping the aspect ratio to fill up the entire canvas. So I'm trying my best to match it with the same size as kind of like my original template. But because I'm holding Alt while resizing it, it kind of keeps everything in the center, which is great. After that, I will select that Moo template and basically delete the selection into my black rectangle so that we have a blank kind of black frame. Then I filled the inside of the frame with this kind of blue color, put them all in a folder, and then transferred it to our kind of 8.5 by 11 canvas. Then I'm going to basically tile them and make sure that I am making everything as even as possible. Now I did kind of miscalculate, I think, the bottom portion of my paper, but luckily when I do end up doing the printing, it matches up regardless. So once we have our kind of template placed onto the canvas, kind of more or less even, I went ahead and merged all of our boxes together so that it's kind of like one template. And I do have like little black dashes on each of the blue rectangles, which happens to be my little trim lines, which you'll see will come in handy a little bit later. So to kind of make sure that all of the drawings or like the illustrations you want to put on the cards are going to be correctly sized, I am clipping all of the drawings to my blue template, but I'm also resizing them so that there's no overlap. And then after that, I put them all into one folder and we can move on and work on the back sides. So I think it's more convenient to have them all in one folder so that they're all separate, but you can kind of toggle it on and off. Guess who had their mic muted? Okay, but now fingers crossed, I actually have the template kind of like correctly positioned to a certain degree. Now, because I allowed myself to have a little bit of bleed on each of the cards, even if I'm like slightly off by a few millimeters, hopefully there won't be any like white excess on each of the sides. But let's talk about paper first before we actually start to print. The paper that I decided to use is this double-sided glossy brochure photo paper from Uinkit. So hopefully you can kind of see that. Now this photo paper is double-sided as it states. It is glossy on both sides as well, so you can print on both sides no problem using like an inkjet printer, which I do have. So I bought this paper initially to do Polaroid cards. Now, I haven't made any Polaroid cards since. I actually kind of forgot that I was planning to make them as kind of like a little stationary merch line type thing, and I wanted to do like a bunch of haiku characters, if you guys remember that video. But instead, I thought it'd be fun to use this to see if it's kind of like thick enough to use for like photo cards, because I matched it with the photo cards that I get from moo.com, and they're actually comparable in thickness. So with an added layer of like lamination, which I don't know if you guys can see it when I'm like trying to catch the light, but hopefully it won't be too much of a problem. I'm most likely going to use the ripply side for the back of our photo cards, and then I'll use the smoother side for our fronts. And then when I do the laminations, from what I've seen people do, is that they do kind of like a gloss lamination of like a clear cold laminate on the back side, and then your hollow of choice on the front. And let's go ahead and get to the printing portion. Now, the rest of the footage for the printing portion is going to be me on my phone, so I do apologize for the sound quality difference. If it sounds a lot worse, I'll definitely do a voiceover, so let's go ahead and get to that. Okay, so we are ready for printing. Now, I apologize that this is not going to be super in focus. I don't usually record on my phone too often, so I'm not even sure about what the sound is. So I'm going to print the front and the backs. So first of all, let's go ahead and turn off our backs and turn back our fronts. And I'm going to go ahead and set my printing. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to select my Canon Pro 100 series, and we're going to go to properties. Now, this is going to be important for like making sure things align properly. In page setup, I need to make sure that things are set to borderless. I don't remember if I need it to be cropped in. I don't think I need an extension on it. We might have to do trial and error, and hopefully my printer still has ink. It's been a while since I've printed anything on this printer. I'm gonna hit OK, and usually Clip Studio Paint gives me a little preview. So it's gonna be hard to see right here, but this is what it looks like right now. Hopefully this works. Also, these two. Oh, I'm out of ink. We'll see how well it works for now. I don't really want to replace the ink quite yet. Oh, he's a little bit dusty. But these two got evicted because my printer is right here, and they usually reside on the top of that. So I'll see you guys when we get done with the printing, because it does take a little bit of time. So yeah, be right back. Colors look okay, which means I think the majority of my inks are working, which is great. Colors look good. I can see my bleed lines here, so we're gonna go ahead and flip it over like this, and print the other side. Now hopefully the bleeds are correct for the top and the bottom. I was mostly worried about the sides aligning, but I forgot about the top and the bottom, so we'll see how well these align. So we're gonna flip it over and print on this back side. Sorry, Kaisen. Okay, so we have our back sides printed. I'm not sure how well they're gonna... Oh no! That's awkward. I might have to print these again. I was talking about like feeding the paper correctly. I should have put these upside down. Okay, let me see if I will do one more session and see if I can print these correctly. Printed off the back sides. Now I'm gonna flip it over and make sure it's upside down. So unfortunately I did print on the wavy side for our fronts now, so hopefully this won't be too bad. It's still gonna be like a test run. Okay, so now that I have like the printing sorted out, I'm looking at the colors. Now I know that I need to darken up Hamon's hair a little bit. He looks a little bit, I don't know, just the hair just doesn't really read correctly, and I would like to darken his eyes even a little bit more. Other than that, I do like what they look like, and I did match them up correctly this time with the orientation of the backside. So I did do a little bit of a spoiler for myself. So while these ones were printing, I ended up doing a quick pretty much cut of the previous one that I ended up doing, where I had the back kind of misaligned. So I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but you can see that this is what the front side looks like, kind of with the smooth surface. And then here's the back side, which I misprinted upside down, and it kind of has like that little wrinkly waviness, but I kind of like the look of this kind of like photo paper. It's not like overly glossy compared to like the holo film. So let's go ahead and apply holo film to these ones to see how it looks. So the hollow film that I'm choosing is like one of these like glittery, sparkly ones, just because I think it kind of fits the aesthetic. So let's go ahead and apply it to our paper. So these ones that I get are, no, I think it's 12 by 8.5 or about 8. So it's a little bit longer than my actual sheet of paper. So I am gonna peel back about an inch or so. Move our hollow off of our design. Try your best to align it. But luckily, because we do have a bit of bleed, as long as you don't miss like your entire card, I think you're okay. I'm gonna use like a little mini squeegee. You can use like a credit card or something that has like a thicker surface, and I'm going to be applying our hollow on top of our cards. Now technically, if I wanted to, I could leave like half of them unlaminated if I wanted to, if I cut the correct size, but I think I'm just gonna commit to the whole page. I think the hollow does look cute, but something about like the reflectiveness is sometimes not great. Sometimes it catches the light a little bit too much and obstructs your actual art. But we have our hollow applied. So I'm gonna leave this actually attached for now, and we're gonna take a little box cutter and a ruler, and I'm gonna cut out the cards from our template. So how I made the bleeds or cut lines and bleed lines on here technically is that I want to cut on the inside of the lines because my black lines do have like a bit of a thickness. I'm gonna stand up and do this maybe. Try not to move my ruler too much. I still wanted to keep it attached to the paper technically because I still need to align our cards, which I accidentally did cut a little too much. So inside of the bleed lines. So I'm just gonna work on the bottom 3 first, just so that I don't accidentally mess up the cuts too badly. There's still like one more final step and like an optional step. Technically all of these are gonna be like somewhat optional because it depends if you like having these kinds of like rectangular photo cards versus like the rounded ones. I'm always cutting into Yejun's card. I feel bad. Let me quickly clean up and then we'll come back to these cards real quick. But for the most part, all relatively the same size, which is great. All nice and uniform. Okay, so here is kind of a look of all the cards right now. You can see that they have the little bit of the laminate on them. They're quite shiny. Here they all are. Now, the one thing I've seen on obviously a lot of photo cards, and I think it's kind of like a preference, is to round the corners. So I have the 5mm corner rounder. So I'm gonna go ahead and just go through, trim each of the corners. One, I think it just like aesthetically it's a little bit cuter. And then 2, they're not like super pointy, so they don't really hurt when you pick them up and stuff. So I think, you know, rounded corners versus like something sharp like this, or if you don't have access to a rounded corner, you can definitely leave these. For these cards, I think the laminate did make them a little bit more like sturdier. They're not as like bendy, I guess. Technically, I mean, like, technically they probably look the same, but if you feel them, this one feels like it has a little bit more weight because of the laminate on it. But I decided to not laminate the back because, like I said, I kind of like the back side with this kind of like, just the paper texture. I think it looks kind of nice. And I feel like putting like a clear or a hollow on the back is just kind of like unnecessary. So without the laminate and with the laminate, I don't know if you can really tell like a super big difference. So yeah, this is kind of what the photo cards look like. I think they turned out actually pretty cute. I Do I want to do the laminating test with the hot laminator? Maybe I will, since we do have some dupes here. Maybe I'll throw in some of my dupes. So let me match them up really quick. I think Eunho, yeah, Eunho is the only one that doesn't have a dupe right now. This is kind of like our glittery laminate, and then our non-glittery. So this is like directly onto the photo paper. And then this is kind of like a rainbow laminate on it. So I don't know if you can tell the color difference on all three. So technically the clearest one is the one that has no laminate on it. And then these two are pretty much similar. I accidentally printed this one on the back side, so it has to have that wavy texture, while this one has like the smooth texture of it. Yeah, okay, let's go ahead and do a quick laminator test, and then I think that'll be it for today. Okay, so our laminator is ready. Let me go ahead and send our cards in. So all of these ones have a little black mark on their, kind of like on the edge of the cards. Send a few at a time. I could have probably put 3 if I didn't put Noah. It's such a weird place. Putting 2 Bambis. I'll see how these guys turn out. Okay, so with the lamination via like the heat lamination, I guess, with the cold laminated sheets, this is kind of what they ended up looking like. Now, it probably doesn't mean anything at the moment because it's hard to see like the comparison of like the before and the after. And you can see that's curling a little bit. And this is the one that was not in the heat lamination. So like right off the bat, I'm not sure if you guys can really tell super clearly. I do think the colors are a little bit more clear and slightly darker, ever so slightly, on this one compared to this one. Maybe I'm crazy? I don't know. It's not like a super big difference. I do think this one is a bit clearer. So this is kind of the look of all 3. So we have our, or I guess I have 4 actually. Let me zoom out. So you can kind of see the, kind of like the color difference between all of them. The color on this one is a bit more of like that, I don't know, like true tone, because my lamination does give it a slightly warmer tinge. And then as we put it through the heat lamination, it did get a bit clearer and it's slightly darker than this one, I believe. And this one is just like hollow laminate. It also went through the heat, so I do think that these ones are probably similar in color. So I definitely think I'll make a few more like custom cards for friends at home. And maybe I'll add like laminates to them or something. I do wish I had like a matte laminate, but the hollow and kind of like glossy look to them is kind of cute too in its own way. What it looks like without the gloss. And I still like this one quite a bit. I just wish I did not print these upside down because I think these would be super cute too. So definitely will make these for friends. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video of me working on kind of trial and error of making photo cards at home. I do think they turned out super cute and I'm actually quite pleased with the results. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I definitely think that this would be a fun way if you want to do like photo cards where you only want to print a very small, very individualized kind of batch. Because I know whenever I have to do like batches for cards like this, they often have to have the same type of backing to all of them, which, you know, could be a downside if you only want to print like one design and you want all the backs to be like separate designs from one another. For this batch, all of them shared the same design, so it didn't really matter too much. But if you want to do these for like gifts or something, or if you want to like emulate K-pop kind of photo cards, or just want to do some of your OCs, or want to just make some fun cards, I think this is kind of like a very fun option to do. So yeah, I think that's it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me do the process of making a bunch of these Plave photo cards. Maybe in the future I will do another session, maybe more vlog style, making some more photo cards, something like that, maybe for gifts for friends or just like one-offs or something to test them out. I'll be sure to take you guys along with me for that. And yeah, I think that's it. I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!